We are glad to see you again on our channel. And today we're looking at a movie where, in 2022, during the World Cup, soldiers from the future appear in the stadium. They tell people that in 30 years, there's going to be a war with aliens, and in order to save the human race, they need the help of those who live now. With the help of a time travel machine, the people of 2022 go 30 years ahead to help win the war. Dan Forrester has its own mission, which he does not even know. December of 2022. Dan Forrester talks on the phone, saying that he has a lot of merit. He participated in 2 battles, but did not pursue a career because his vocation is a laboratory. Dan says he studied at the University of California, and now he teaches biology at school. At the other end of the wire, it is said that his resume is still under consideration. Dan comes home with lots of bags. There is a house party, and Dan calls the daughter young Murray Forrester, giving in her hands the bottles and asking to bring them to the kitchen. One of the guests says it's a great party. There's a soccer World Cup on TV. It's final. Emmy Forrester approaches Dan and tells him that they are out of Christmas napkins. Dan is in headphones because there has just solved his problem with work. The wife says that the daughter dreams of Dan to watch a game with her. The man says he will watch when he returns. He notices the card on the table and asks what it is. Emmy replies that it is his father who sent his daughter for Christmas and offers to discuss it tomorrow. But Dan throws out a card with the words, "Nothing to talk about." Emmy says he just wants to be her grandfather. Dan counters by saying that he lost the right to see his granddaughter when he left Emmy's husband in mind of himself. Emmy says no one eats fish Santa, and Dan promises to come back with a new position and eat it. Dan goes outside, resuming the conversation about his job on the headphones. He is told that the most important thing to this position is the experience, which Dan unfortunately does not have, and therefore they chose another candidate. They wish him luck and hang up the phone. Dan gets upset, gets angry, throws his resume in the trash and returns to the house, sits on the couch with his daughter. Young Murray Forrester tells Dan that she wants to be the best like he is in science. Dan gives his daughter advice and pronounces that he was born for something great. The girl tells him everything will be fine. Dan Forrester, at this time in the championship, is about to take a decisive blow, and everyone is looking at the screen. Suddenly, in the stadium, right on the field, there is some purple explosion or cloud, from which soldiers with weapons appear. The girl soldier begins to say that they are people from the present, only after 30 years. She says they're at war, but not with people, and that's why they lose. In 11 months, all of humanity will be wiped out if the people of the present do not help. She says people have to fight if they want a chance for survival. A year later, news reports say that after these words, transport camps were set up in the stadium to send warriors to the future and fight back the aliens. Of the first batch of soldiers sent to the future, very few survived. It was decided to make a universal call using the civilian population as well. The point is that only those who would normally have died before 2051 could have gone into the future. People go to the future weekly, and only 20% of conscripts survive. Many doubt that the loss is worth it, and protests against the war are gaining momentum. Young Murray Forrester wakes up at night because she is dreaming that her parents were taken to the war. Dan teaches a class at school, but sees that the children do not listen to him, and therefore asks what they are interested in. One guy raises his hand and starts talking about ancient volcanoes, and it's not the first time, because the class already knows everything. Kids are starting to ask why school is if everyone's seen what's going to happen in 30 years. Dan is trying to reassure the children by saying that there is still a chance, and these are scientists who need to continue to study everything. Dan gets a message on the phone with the phrase, "Please proceed to the nearest conscription point." Dan comes to the point. He has looked at the documents and put to do a test. According to the test results, the soldiers from the future tell Dan that he is suitable for them on all counts. They say that the test showed that Dan would die on October 13th, 2030. While Dan is overwhelmed by this news, a device that allows him to travel to the future and back is placed on his hand. He is also told that if he dies, his loved ones will receive $1 million. The soldiers say that the device will be removed only after the draft. It is tracked, and any attempt to avoid the draft is the arrest of Dan himself or his wife. He's given 24 hours to sort out his personal affairs, and then he needs to get to the prep station. Emmy runs a psychotherapy group. One of her clients says he can't get clicks out of his head. He says that one of the aliens starts clicking, and the others do the same. The man says the aliens want to kill everyone. Emmy sees her husband in the door. Dan shows her the device on his hand. Emmy tells her husband that he can run away, and that she knows someone who can help by hinting at his father. The girl tells Dan to ask her father for help for her and his daughter's sake. Dan arrives to his father, James Forrester, with whom he has no contact at all because the man abandoned Dan and his mother after the Vietnam War. James looks at his son's hand and says he's lucky because he's the only one who can get it off. Dan says he knows what his dad's doing here because he's an engineer. He has a disagreement with the government and no income. James sharply pours water on his son, checking for a wire. He says it's very strange that the son just shows up unannounced and says all this. He suspects provocation. Dan is angry and says that his father does not think that Dan will be let go if he rats James out. James asks why Dan came if he never accepted his father's help. Dan becomes enraged, saying that he has been waiting all these years for his father to help him, at least to bury Dan's mother. James says that when he came from the war, he was in a very dark place from which he could not get out, could not get rid of anger and cruelty. Dad explains that things would have been much worse if he had stayed. Dan says that his father was a coward, and so he ran away. He also says that James will never see his granddaughter. James Forrester. Dan comes home to his wife. Emmy sees the device on his hand, but Dan says he knows what he's doing. Dan goes to his daughter and tells her that he will be away for a week. The girl immediately realizes that he has been called up. She starts crying, but Dan says that he will be back. Dan comes to the preparatory center together with other conscripts. Everyone is told that the service will last 7 days, 168 hours. After that time, if the device senses a pulse, it will automatically bring the conscript back. Dan sees Squad D on the device and meets the guy next to him, Charlie. Men sit behind Dorian, the guy who will have it for the 3rd time. Team D, in which Dan and Charlie are located, is a development team. Charlie. People from it will be sent to the research center. Conscripts are shown a repeater, the very machine for time travel. They also say that every 6 days, white spikes, aliens disappear and hide. At night, the sirens go off and conscripts are told to go. 7 days have not passed, and Dan learns that the research base has been attacked, so help is needed now. Dorian. Conscripts get ready and equipment begins to work. Conscripts are pulled into a purple hole. The soldiers see something wrong with the coordinates, but it's too late. Conscripts land, but many die due to coordinate failure. Dan contacts headquarters and is told that the soldiers will be sweeping the city, so they need to get a team of scientists out of the research lab to safety. Dan begins to lead the group, and they head for the laboratory. At the research center, the group sees the bodies of scientists who have not survived. Dan is assigned to retrieve all the data from the lab and the biological material. As the group assembles, headquarters says the attack is starting and they need to withdraw. The group begins walking down the stairs, where they meet one alien who attacks. The group then flees the street, shooting at the attackers, who are growing in numbers. They are said to leave quickly. The bombardment is coming. The city is covered by an explosion. Dan wakes up in the hospital of Puerto Plata. He learns that all the conscripts died. Only he, Charlie, and Dorian survived. Dorian says that the souvenir on his neck is a reminder of the cancer, which should kill him. Dan meets a female colonel and learns that it is his daughter, only 30 years older, Colonel Murray Forrester. The girl tells Dan that Team D is her development and she is the lead researcher. Colonel Murray. She has a PhD in biotechnology with a major in genomics and immunology. Colonel Murray says that in a few days humanity will disappear, and Dan is here for a certain reason, which later he will learn. Colonel Murray reveals the alien female to her father and explains that the aliens only care about the survival of their species. The The girl says that the toxin they use kills male aliens, but it doesn't take females. She wants to understand why and find something that will destroy the females. Colonel Murray takes Dan with her in an attempt to capture a female alien. On the way there, she reveals that aliens multiply very quickly, and in 3 years, there are almost no people left. Dan asks his daughter what happened before his death and what happened to his wife. Colonel Murray says they should talk less and doesn't answer the questions. The helicopter arrives and the soldiers begin to capture the female. Colonel Murray herself goes down to help but is in danger. Dan helps her and they catch the female in a cage. Colonel Murray tells Dan that she wanted to be like him, but then he left her with her mother. She says that when she was 12 years old, Dan and his wife separated, and when the girl was 14, they divorced. And when she was 16, Dan got into an accident and died. Colonel Murray cries and says that she did not want him to leave, but then he was gone. The female is brought to a base near the Bahamas. Colonel Murray conducts research on the female, taking her DNA to find a combination that will help destroy the aliens. After many attempts, Colonel Murray finds a combination, with the result of 100%. She tells Dan that he needs to go back in time and synthesize something like this to prevent the aliens from taking over Earth. The girl says that he is her father, and she can only trust him. At the same time, the female starts screaming, and the base is attacked by males who follow her. Dan and Colonel Murray shoot back, but the girl gets hurt. She gives Dan an ampoule. His device begins to work. Colonel Murray plunges down. Dan tries to hold her, but is sucked by a purple wave, and the girl falls. Dan wakes up in his own time. He is immediately told that the relay is broken. Dan arrives home. He tells his wife that he has seen Colonel Murray. He also begins to remember how the alien attacks began. The man meets with Charlie and Dorian and asks for help from a guy in his class who always talks about volcanoes. Together, the men realize that the aliens suddenly appeared in the north of Russia, but there was no ship. They conclude that the monsters may be under the glaciers that were formed by volcanic eruptions. Dan asks his father for help, who becomes a pilot in this operation. The squad goes to Russia to the glacier to look for the beginning of the war. Beneath the glacier, they find the ship's landing site, and inside, there are alien cocoons. The squad begins to put ampoules of the virus into the cocoons, but some of the monsters escape, so they decide to blow up the ship. After the explosion of the ship survives only Dan, his father, and Charlie. Men realize that a female alien ran away and pursue her. The men catch up with the female and fight her, resulting in a victory by destroying the monster. Dan comes home, but not alone, together with James Forrester. Dan says that the best possible future was always there for him. This is the American film, The Tomorrow War, in the genres of fiction, action, horror, directed by Chris McKay.